This week, Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced he is freezing data center construction across the state until a comprehensive audit is completed. I spoke to Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz about that and a whole lot more. Senator, let's talk about AI. Your governor, Greg Abbott, has recently ordered regulators to freeze new data centers and their connections to the Texas power grid. This reflects mounting concern among Texans about energy and water demands. For or against that?
Well, listen, I think a lot of Texans want to see some common sense rules. When it concerns water, they want to see a limited use of water. And the good news is that most new data centers that are being built use what's called closed loop cooling rather than open loop. And closed loop uses very little water. So that's a problem that's being addressed. But I think the governor is right to insist that we minimize the water usage of data centers. Likewise, on power, we're seeing, I think, more and more data centers produce their own power generation. And what I have been advising tech companies when building a data center is you should be a net negative user of power. In other words, you should generate more new power than you use, so the consequence for the community is that their electricity bills go down rather than go up. And I think you're seeing more and more that's happening, but those are the kind of rules that the governor is quite reasonably imposing.
These are practical concerns. There's also the larger future of artificial intelligence. And today at the White House, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, and Meta are meeting to put together safety and definitions for frontier models, all of which will remain classified. And a understandably curious public would like to know more about these things that are being decided in private. Should they?
Well, listen, there are classified matters that necessarily stay classified, but I'll tell you, I chaired the Senate Commerce Committee, and in September, we're going to have a markup on AI, and one of the topics that I expect us to take up is legislation addressing potential catastrophic risk. So AI that say might be used to develop nuclear weapons or biological weapons are the kinds of things that you want real guardrails. You don't want AI being used in a way that could endanger the health and safety of millions of Americans. And so my hope is that we will see bipartisan agreement on legislation that puts that guardrail in, so that while this new technology is being developed, we're ensuring it's being developed in a way that is safe and not with unnecessary risks.
And what about recent stories, Senator, of models going rogue, exiting their places, and ruthlessly, that's the word, both OpenAI and Anthropic have used, to hack other systems? Is that a danger?
Of course it is, and those stories are concerning. Look, tech companies, like anybody else, has to follow the law, and it is illegal to hack into someone else's system, and there should be legal consequences for models that do that. This is a new technology. It's a new technology. We and everybody else are just learning. It is already changing how people live life, and I think in the coming years it will change it more. I will say, I think the single most important economic question facing America right now is who wins the race for AI. Does America win it, or does China win it? China is trying very hard to beat us, and why does that matter? I think whichever nation wins the race for AI, it will result in trillions of dollars of new investment and millions of new jobs. And we frankly want those jobs in America and not in China. But secondly, whichever nation wins the race for AI, the values of that nation are going to suffuse AI. And I don't want the values of the Chinese Communist Party dictating what AI produces. I don't want espionage and propaganda and surveillance to be the values that are throughout AI. Instead, I want American values of free speech and individual choice and free enterprise. And so we need to win the race for AI, but we need to do so in a way that also protects people and keep people safe. And that's the balance Congress is trying to strike. That's the balance we need to strike.
A couple of political questions. You have no hesitation about offering your endorsement. Do you have any comment today on the ongoing Max Miller saga? Your colleague, Bernie Moreno of Ohio, has talked about it extensively today.
Yeah, look, I don't know Mr. Miller. I don't know him personally. I've seen what's unfolded there, and it's heartbreaking. Bernie is a good friend of mine. I'll tell you, I've expressed personally just my condolences as a dad. I know it's really painful what he's going through, and it's really unfortunate.
So you have no opinion whether Max Miller should stay in Congress or not?
Look, I think he and others are going to make that determination. There are obviously some very serious allegations against him, and I think that matter will be decided in the coming days, I expect.
Closer to home for you, Senator Cruz, 4 polls in the last month show James Tallarico either ahead slightly or tied. Do you believe those polls?
Look, I think the Texas Senate race is a very real race. I have been urging for a number of weeks now that Republicans should take the Texas Senate race very, very seriously. I believe we're going to win. I think Ken Paxton is going to be the next senator from Texas. I think he should be, because James Tallarico, his views are quite radical. They're quite extreme. This is a guy who says God is non-binary. This is a guy who says there's 6 different genders. This is a guy who says, even though he's an ordained minister, that he hates Christianity. This is a guy who says that on the southern border we should have a welcome mat welcoming illegal aliens to this country. Those are not the values most Texans agree with. And right now, most Texan voters do not know Tallarico's extreme record. That's what campaigns are for. And so, look, I do think the race is very close right now. On Election Day, I believe Republicans are going to win, but we've got to go and make the case that Ken Paxton's record and the policies he's fighting for are much more closely aligned to the common sense values of Texans than are James Tallarico's really quite extreme positions.
Viewers and listeners to this program, Senator Cruz, know very well I love college sports, and I have been alarmed at the trajectory of Division I college athletics for the better part of 2 years. You are, along with Senator Maria Cantwell, the driving forces behind the Protect College Sports Act, which got the backing of the Big Ten and the SEC recently after lots of phone calls. You, Senator Cantwell, Eric Schmidt, and the White House.
Yes.
Are you going to pass it?
I believe we're going to. I'm really optimistic right now. And listen, for all of us who love college sports, we know there's a crisis right now.
Define that crisis, Senator Cruz.
It is chaos. You have student athletes entering the transfer portal 2, 3, 4 times, jumping from school to school to school, which means you don't get a good education. You have essentially no eligibility rules. Athletes competing 6, 7 years, athletes that are 27, 28 years old competing against 17-year-olds.
Washouts from the pros coming back.
Exactly. You also have a cost spiral that is costing almost every athletic program in the country millions and even tens of millions of dollars that they're losing. And as a result, every week you see another program cancel women's sports, cancel track and field, cancel Olympic sports. And I think if we don't act, within 5 years, there will be 30 to 50 competitive college football programs, and all the rest go belly up. And that would be a travesty. It'd be like a mini NFL.
What does your legislation do to address all of these issues and related issues dealing with the pipeline that college sports are to athletic competitions in the Olympics?
So our legislation, which is bipartisan legislation, protects college sports. Number one, it sets common sense rules. On the transfer portal, every athlete gets 1 transfer. After that, there are very limited exceptions. You can have a second transfer if your coach leaves, if your program is canceled, or if you're the victim of sexual assault or sexual harassment. Other than those narrow circumstances, if you transfer a second time, you got to sit out a year, you got a red shirt. That used to be the rule until the courts threw that out. So that's a common sense rule that would bring some order to sports. We set eligibility rules that every athlete gets 5 years of eligibility and a hard cap of age 24. We make clear that professionals, if you're a pro, you can't play in college sports. We also give the league the authority to enforce the cap in revenue sharing so that it doesn't just spiral out of control.
And what about the TV money?
The TV money is revenue sharing, and we let schools actually join together and collectively bargain their TV rights, which I believe will grow the pie and result in significantly more revenue. And the way the economics of college sports works, if a school loses football, football pays for every other sport. And look, the urgency of this, Major, as you know, there are about 500,000 college athletes in America every year. There's no other country on earth that has anything remotely like college sports. And if we don't act, half or more of those scholarships and roster positions are going away. And that would be a tragedy, because sports has been an avenue for millions of young men and women to go to school, to get an education, to learn skills that help them succeed in life. And it's why we've got really strong bipartisan support. This legislation has 3 Republican, 3 Democrat
Very, very quickly,
co-sponsors.
Senator Cruz, does it happen before the break, or do you do it?
Yes.
It happens
we
before the
voted out
break.
of the Senate before the break. I believe we're going to vote in the next week and move it through the Senate with a big bipartisan vote is what I believe is going to happen.
Senator Cruz, I've always told you the conversation is continuous here at the Takeout. We'll have you back.
Great.
Appreciate it.